What's up, everybody? My name's Zach. I play in a band called Portugal the Man, and I am on the Nebula Music Podcast.
Boom. God, you're a fucking natural. All right, what is up, everybody? Eddie Barco here once again, and I want to welcome you to the Nebula Music Podcast. If you've listened to the intro, or maybe this is just like your first time here, this is a show where we talk to some of today's most inspiring and influential musicians. Anyone who's doing something really cool in the music industry, we have them on the show and pick their brain just for a little bit so that we can learn something new. Today, I am very excited because we have someone who's very special, who's very talented, who's very bright, who's multifaceted, who's got his foot in everything. I'm going to keep going, man, because it is true. You legitimately do a lot. And I'm hoping I can pick your brain enough to learn a lot of things here, because there's a lot of musicians that I'm sure are interested in what you have to do. But without further ado, we have Mr. Zach from Portugal the Man joining us. How you doing, man?
Nice to be here. I'm doing great. Besides just told you, just got off the mountain and was doing some riding with my singer and a friend, and I got my ass handed to me just about an hour and a half ago. Lost my phone, goggles came off, gloves, like yard sale on the mountain. I did a real stupid thing, and but we got it on camera, so look forward to that. I'll be posting that soon.
What was the stupid thing that you tried to do, a backflip?
No, I was just trying to spin a little bit, and I honestly, I was too slow because I had crashed earlier, but like a soft normal crash. And I didn't have enough speed to clear this gap, but I just tried to do it anyway, caught an edge, and just slammed. Thank God, I started wearing a helmet this year.
Good, and that's smart.
Really glad I did that today, because my shit would be rocked. I see your bag back there. You fight?
I do a little bit, yeah.
Oh,
do you too?
Dude, I train. I don't really like fight, but I fight my friends, and but I haven't in a long time. But we got into boxing for a while, and I really like it. I think my back and joints feel too old to get like shit on the ground, but but just fists, I definitely like. It's so much fun,
dude. It's so primal too. Like I think when it comes to having just anytime you have a bad day, you just punch a little bit, it makes you feel good, you know? It's interesting. The way I got into boxing was I met this a friend of mine who introduced me to this like old Russian dude, and he claims he was like special forces or whatever, and then he trains me for a day, and his whole method of training me was like, all right, let's train, put your hands up, and he just beats the shit out of me for an hour. This like 65-year-old man.
Fun than my trainer,
dude.
Makes me run and shit.
And after the first day, he was like, okay, here's, in a very thick Russian accent, he was like, my whole philosophy is I'm going to train the fear out of you. Within 2 weeks, you're not going to be afraid to fight anymore. And then sure enough, after like 2-3 weeks, it's just like, hands up, let's go. You don't judge a book by its cover. That's for sure.
No, totally, dude. And that's super badass. Yeah, there is something about that. Like, once you can think clearly while getting punched in the face, it's like a whole new world. You get such a different level of like confidence and just walking about your day. Just like, no, it's like, I can think while getting punched in the face. And that's like, it takes a while and it's hard. And that's super cool, man. Right on.
Useful skill to be able to kind of take a step back and just like think clearly. You can do so much in life if you can do that. But this isn't a show about boxing, unfortunately, because we can talk about that for hours. Right? Zach, I know that a lot of people probably recognize you from your work in music. There's so much stuff that you do as well that I want to get into. But at the beginning of every episode, I like to ask, a little bit about your backstory. I also want to know a little bit of how you've been handling this whole pandemic thing. This year is bizarre. So I'm kind of doing my part in helping musicians along the way understand how other musicians have been dealing with just being cooped up at home. Has it been good for you? Have you been creative? Are you dying to get back on the road? I don't know. Just wondering.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, my name's Zach Carothers. I play in Portugal the Man. We're from Wasilla, Alaska. We've been together for like 17 years or some shit like that. And the singer and I were in another band before that. I know the most amazing thing we've ever done is stay together. I was like, we were like, what's the craziest shit you've done? We're like, been in this band still. It's wild. But yeah, no, I like to I'm handling the pandemic. I don't like the pandemic because the economy, people's health, friends have lost a lot of grandparents and things like that. It's not cool. But quarantine, 10 out of 10. I have been into it. I am it's kind of rough. I bought my first house and it was like a total piece of shit house. I mean, it's great. It's like got great bones, but like needed to gut the whole thing. So I've been remodeling a house, and but the property is just super cool. So yeah, it's I haven't made any money in a long time, but I'm just racking up some debt, and I'm digging it. But like we haven't spent this much time at home since we were like 15 or 16. It's really special. I got a puppy, get to hang out with the family. I get to, things are very limited, but I think I needed this. I needed to slow down and kind of look within a little more and like put my feet on the ground. You know, I just like, I'm living in half a house. I fish and I chop wood, and
the
I'm
mountain
having
man over here. I love it.
Oh yeah. I've been like, we didn't have heat for a long time. I finally got the furnace working, and like we built a house inside of a house while we're like working on other parts. And yeah, I spent the entire summer living in tents on this property and working. And it's like, it's been really nice and really cleared my head. I've got to look inside myself a lot. I've got to take a look at a lot of the world and a lot of systems. I really think that this has given us the opportunity to look at, everybody's got, you know, that cabinet that squeaks or something. There's like, God, I've been meaning to fix these things by myself, my house, and my, you know, for, you know, years. I finally have the space to do it. I think we can do that in our homes, in our communities, in our country, in all the systems that are not. We're just gonna be like, yo, why is this like this? Just because it's always been? Nah, fuck that. Let's do something about it. So through all the protests and all the crazy shit that's gone on, I think the world's learned a lot. And it's the beginning of a large awakening, which I'm very excited to be a part of.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do feel like this pandemic, even though, like you said, I definitely echo what you're saying, that it's a bad thing, but I also feel like we were all handed this thing and we all had choices to make on how we were going to handle it. And it is fascinating how within this year, so much happened in the world of social change and how much was exposed on how everything really functions, even though we've all been told for years, like how everything works, whether it's in music or whether it's in the world. This whole year has really helped. I think it helped a lot of people kind of figure out what they want to do, so to speak. And I'm wondering, in your, I'm not sure if it's okay if we venture in this territory, but since you are in Portland, I am in LA, so I'm kind of in this little bubble here. But I've never been to Portland, driven through it, but I guess that technically counts. But
you've been here.
The thing is, you know, I've heard so much talk about what happened over there over the past couple months, and I'm wondering, in your perspective, do you have any insight on what happened in terms of like a lot of the social justice things that happened in that area? Because I have some insight on what happened here, but one of the things I try to do my best of is I try to kind of explore people's perspectives depending on where they're at. Because I don't necessarily want people to learn just by watching videos. Like, it's important to talk about it, especially if you live there. So you are the first one I've had from Portland in a while. So I'm curious, like, in your perspective, what was happening in that city, and did you like it? Did you not like it? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
I loved it. I thought I saw a lot of power taken to a lot of people, and you know, protests are just like, it's a beautiful song of revolution. That's how you get things started. And you know, it was people fighting back, and the fighting, you know, it ends up getting ridiculous, and you're like, what are you? And by the end of it, it's like, all right, we got like Proud Boys dressing up like Antifa and starting shit. You got Antifa dressing up like Proud Boys and doing shit. Like, I don't know what it's all about, but I know there was a lot of people pissed off that weren't feeling heard. And I think a lot of people got heard that haven't been heard. And I'm all about just elevating voices, particularly unsung. And I thought that a lot of people just actually got to open their eyes and be like, oh, shit's fucked up. I don't necessarily know how to fix it. I don't think a lot of people do, but we just like, acknowledgement is the first key to figuring out there's a problem. And if that's going on for 200 days straight, like there's some shit going on. And, you know, but then it gets very complicated. But I like the fact that people were coming together. Everybody's got signs and like really speaking their truth and seeing how they are and really understanding their role in systemic racism and learning on like trying to change it. And there's just a lot of shit that so many people didn't know. And it's not they're bad people, but they don't know. And until you know, you're just ignorance. And then once you learn something, then you can move forward in the world knowing that. And then you start making choices on whether to make it better or to just keep on going the same way. And I think a lot of people, some things, a lot of white privilege bells went off. I know it did for me, and I think a lot of other people, and they just really started to open up their minds and their ears and their eyes to see things that they just didn't really see before. And so I'm proud of shit of the youth in the city, the organizations that have come out of this. I've seen some really cool organizations, really cool stuff, like powerful youth, like Black and Indigenous youth, like really coming together, organizing and fighting a really difficult battle with some really powerful people. But they're out there fighting it. And yeah, I kind of moved. I got this place. I didn't move because of that by any means, but it was like, yeah, dude, Portland was a little freaky for a while. There's shit was on fire every night, or protests all around, and people were pissed off, but rightfully so. I'm like, dude, get it out. And they got a lot of stuff out. And yeah, you just got to hear both. You got to see both sides. And sadly, even with, the sides that I don't agree with, I'm a firm believer that you don't live in a free place if you don't see the other side. Yeah. And free speech is questionable when it comes to hate speech and shit. But it's like, you got to see the opposition, because even if it's working for you, if you don't hear like the other side of the coin, you're probably not living in a very cool place. And so just getting to see both sides of things and not fully understanding either, because, everybody just has their own point of view and their own perspective. But still, I learned a lot. I think a lot of people learned a lot. Portland learned a lot.
Yeah. I love everything that you're saying, and I'm just dissecting it in my brain because I think it is fascinating, especially if, studying your history a little bit and all the things and activism that you've been involved in even before the pandemic happened. Like, it all kind of ties together as you're describing it. One thing I am generally curious about, kind of backtracking a little bit in your history, I know you said that you were from Alaska. Now, I'm not very familiar with the culture in Alaska. I think you're from a small town. I guess I'm wondering, from my understanding, I could be wrong, but from my understanding, it's a very conservative state. Am I wrong? Or is it more? Yeah. Okay. So here's the fascinating thing that I find is not only are you this band from Alaska, which is rare in the music industry that breaks out and is successful, but you yourself are very much an activist at your heart. I feel like music is your passion, but you fused it with activism, and hearing you speak, there's proof in that's what you're passionate about. I guess, even though this is a broad question, I'm wondering, in your perspective, do you know where that drive for activism comes from? Because you've had it from the start, since way back, back in Alaska, I would imagine, right? So I'm just wondering.
It really did. Yeah, I didn't realize that until very recently that I did. I thought I was kind of new to politics and new to activism. And then, somebody kind of right. It was like, oh, well, you did all this shit. You did this shit. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I have. I just didn't see it as the same way I did now. But honestly, I learned it in Alaska, because though they vote conservative and stuff a lot, like, they're all about community and they're all about taking care of each other. And there is a difference. Like, people that go up there, a lot of them just kind of want to be left alone. And so you get flip of the coin. You get the liberal hippie that lives out in a bus in the middle of the woods, or you get, kind of a super red racist guy that lives out in a bus in the woods. Either way, for those who go hiking through Alaska, if you see a bus in the woods and you can tell that somebody lives there, do not go near it. Bad things happen. For some reason, I ran into a shit ton. John will say the same thing. Like, it's just buses out in the middle of the woods that people live in. And don't go to them. Like, they're out there for a reason, whether they're nice or not. Just like, stay away from those kind of things unless you need help. But everybody in Alaska, they do know that you need each other. And that's where I learned this. And so when people start dogging on systems or, fear of the other, everybody in Alaska, when you break it down, you just got to find common ground. No matter who your neighbor is, you take care of them. So there might be a situation where, like, it's cold and, some shit freezes, and like, you might die if you don't get, some help from your neighbor. A lot of neighbors are really far apart. I grew up in kind of like just off of town, like technically not in city limits, but like it was like at my street. So I could see my neighbors. My neighbors were, close-ish. My neighbors were totally close. I could see my neighbors. And like John grew up in the middle of nowhere where his driveway was 2 miles long when I met him. And that was one of the short ones.
God damn.
Like it's crazy. Like first time I went to his house, he has like a 2-mile driveway. And then I pulled in and he had like 150 dogs. It was like pretty wild.
That
shit.
Sounds awesome though. Holy shit. That's
super
awesome.
rad house. Yeah. And it was very, very cool. But I lived kind of like in town, like not a big town, but yeah, I could see neighbors, and my street got paved sometime when I was in high school or something. So it's like, this is nice. I had some pavement. But you learn that sense of community. And even with all that shit up there, even with like people who are racist or homophobic or something like that, they're like, not about the people that live there. They'll be like, they'll cry. And I don't think that's better. I think it's normalizing outward racism. I definitely don't think it's better, but it's just different. It's not like, there'll be a lot of people can be like, say some fucked up shit, but then it's like, dude, you work with a black guy, you work with an indigenous person. It's like, oh, not Steve. Nah, man. Like, Steve's my fucking brother. Yeah. It's like one of those. And it's different. Now, I'm not saying that's cool at all. Like that might be worse. I'm not sure, but I'm learning things about that. But you got a really strong sense of like taking care of the people and being close to your community. And sometimes you fight with them and you don't agree with them, but my whole thing is just be a good neighbor, man. Just be a good neighbor. If everybody tends to be a good neighbor, I think things will just get along better.
Yeah. And it is interesting. I wonder, do you think that it's the reason why that mentality in Alaska, that, everyone has their own opinions, like you were saying, people in Alaska in a sense are probably more individualistic than anywhere else, because it's kind of like the final frontier in a way. But do you feel like the dangerous environment, I don't even want to say dangerous, but Alaska is a pretty hard place to live in from what I understand.
Totally. Yeah.
Is that the environment that encourages that sort of teamwork? Like maybe we're not on the same page, but hey, like you were saying, if you're freezing, I'll help you out. If a bear comes, I'll help you out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why a lot of people just don't understand a big bustling metropolis, and they might not totally get, because in general, like there's two ways to look at it. A lot of people look at the government as to help the people. A lot of people think of it as, America's a business, and they're both right. America is a business and it has to be run like that. And so Alaskans are just like the general, I don't want to generalize them because I know like a wild array of psychopaths from up there, me being one of them. And it's like, but it is, people are so tough up there and just like do so much things. It's like, they're just like got that mentality like, oh, I don't know why anybody would need help, like healthcare or welfare and like that. You just like, you pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you just like, get shit done, which is kind of like how it makes sense in that environment, because you have to do it yourself or ask a neighbor. You can't wait around for a system or the police or the government. Is like, dude, nobody's going to help you that quick, and you'll freeze to death or starve to death or something in that amount of time. But a lot of people, don't get to see or live in cities where and understand the systems that really create that, like create poverty or create the need to want to like do crime or do things like that. And like, that's the shit that we really need to fix. And like, and I get like a lot of that shit just goes over our heads. We just grew up different. Even though I could see my neighbors, like I'd watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and like John was talking about, like I'd watch that when I was a kid. He's like, what the fuck is a neighborhood? Like I never saw shit like that. And so we just had a different perspective, but you just got to understand that everybody does. Everybody's got a different story. And I just want people to tell it. I'm interested in people's stories.
Yeah. It's interesting because, what you were saying earlier, how you give this example of someone saying like, oh, here's my friend Steve, he's not like everybody else. And I feel like I'm Hispanic, by the way. I'm
Mhm.
born and raised here in Los Angeles, but my parents are
Oh,
from Guatemala.
rad.
But yeah, it's super rad. I love my culture. LA is a huge melting pot. And so I feel like when you grow up in a place like here, it's everyone is from everywhere else, you know, so
Yeah.
you're used to that. But the first times I ventured out into like more rural Los Angeles, the United States, it was definitely a culture shock to find out how very tight knit a lot of these communities are. And as a
Yeah.
young kid, I didn't really understand. I feel as an adult, very much like you, I'm beginning to understand more and have more sympathy for the idea that, like, you know, a lot of places are you know, kind of isolated to their own
Yeah.
little bubble, just like a lot of metropolises in a way are isolated in their bubble as well. But what I like about you is you have this mentality to try and do something with this knowledge that you have.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering specifically when you ventured off into starting to do music. I know that you have mentioned before that you never got into it for the money or for any of that sort of
Yeah.
thing, especially in Alaska. Like, again, I'm so fascinated by the fact that you're from Alaska.
It's a
What
weird
was that
spot.
driving for? It is a weird spot. It's a beautiful spot and
Oh, yeah.
iconic spot, I would say.
Yeah.
But what was the driving force then to get into music? Out of all things that you could have done in Alaska, I would say you probably are one of the random few that tried it. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, I got pushed by my friends. It was honestly, we moved down to Portland. I moved down to go to college outside, a few hours out of Portland, and then ended up starting a band with some friends and moving up here. And we started going to shows, and we found out that you didn't have to have money or make money to do it. It's like we like to travel. I was very hungry for just seeing places. I really liked that. I got to do it a little bit as a kid. We didn't travel much as a family, but once I got to be a teenager, like I saved up a little bit of money and I just flew to New York City and then just like greyhounded it around for a while and just bummed it around the country just to like see some shit. And I was like, oh dude, this is rad. And you just meet so many different walks of life and hear so many amazing stories. And I really like that. I just like to see things and listen to things. Um and so when we'd see all these bands, like we'd go and to these bars and I'd see a rad band that I've never heard of from a town I've never heard of. And then they just like get in the van and go. And I'm like, oh, you don't need stage lights or Lear jets or any of that shit. I'm like, I was playing music forever and like had a shitty band in high school. And then we kind of started a band. We're like, oh dude, we can just do it. Like I found if I try to think too much about anything, me personally, I have a big problem with just like overthinking and delaying. It's like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? And I get scared. It's caused a lot of inaction that I'm very ashamed of on a lot of levels. But every time that I've just jumped in the deep end and like you figure out how to swim. And so we just jumped in and we just went on tour. And yeah, we were just dirt poor for a long time, but it was fun. And it was great.
Yeah.
And we got into some really funny and scary and interesting situations. And I learned a lot, made a lot of cool friends. And yeah, we just did it we just woke up and wanted to play music every day. And then we just wanted to travel. So we just went out and did it. And it was a very slow, long build. And, we sacrificed a lot, lost a lot of good paying jobs, a lot of really nice women, dogs, apartments, all that stuff. We kind of gave all that up and just went and did it. And yeah, it worked out. And it was like, but we're just fucking persistent. Finally, the rest of the world just gave in to us. There's like, fucking fine. Here's a hit. Like,
that's the way to look at it. That's the way.
Radio. It's just like, it's like if you go fishing 10,000 times, you're going to catch a fish no matter how bad you are. And, even a broken clock's right twice a day,
I love that you're saying that because I've been blessed to talk to a lot of really cool people in my life. And I've learned so much from people from all different kinds of walks. And that's what fascinates me. It's all the different choices that can lead to the exact same spot, like where you're at. And one thing I love about you is that you kind of embrace that nomad lifestyle that a lot of people fantasize. But from experience and also from other artists that I've talked to, when they get that taste of, like you were talking about, that van life, like getting that tour van and all cramming in the back seat and driving from town to town, some people love it, some people hate it. And it's a huge, like, punch in the gut when you start to realize the amount of hard work that it takes to get there. So in your perspective, I guess this is going to be another one of those broad questions, but we can pick at it a little bit. Why do you think in your life story it worked out for you? Just because I know that prior to the pandemic, there's tons of people that have tried it. And I say most people quit after a certain time, but there's many people who've been doing it for years, yet you succeeded. And I know you mentioned, there were some bad moments, some good moments, you made sacrifices, but you always followed your gut, which is key. It's simple to say, but I'm genuinely wondering if you've ever put thought into it or wondered why it worked out for you.
I think I'm just stubborn. And I think we found a really good group of people.
I love that.
Yeah, I just wasn't going to quit. And there's been times, like, especially with me and John, our singer, who, we're like brothers and we fight like brothers, and we're like completely different people, but we have a shared goal. And that's one thing that, like, really is getting me through a lot of these struggles politically and through social justice. I'm just like, dude, people want people to be safe. People want people to be happy. And I was like, we got to find some fucking common ground. Yeah, me and John think completely different things, do different things, but that's the point. We found a group of psychopaths that, like, all have a different thing. And if there was two of any of us, like, the shit wouldn't work. And John writes really good songs, but he has a lot of, he comes up with, like, some really cool ideas, but implementing, or he's a little shy. I'm like, oh, well, I can go do this. You do this. Then if I do this, you'll go do this. It's all about teamwork. And yeah, we were just stubborn. We're just like, nah, we're going to fucking do this. And, like, I will not quit. I will not be fired. I'm just like, I was there when this band was born. I'll be there when it dies, or I'll die while it still is there, but somebody's going to die. And I think I'm just stubborn. I was willing to give it up. And there was always just and our, like, trajectory, though it was a very, very slow one, it always kept going up. Like, we didn't have, like, a big album and then go down or something like that. Like, it's always like kind of just barely cranked up until, like, Feel It Still. And there was a fucking big old spike that will come down from when this is all done, I'm sure. But it's like, but it's different. Like, our real fans, our core fans, has just been like, and it took forever. And we just played 300 shows a year. And we're just like, all right, we're going to Missoula. And the first time we played, 5 people were there. The next time we played, they told a friend or two, and 15 people were there. Next time there was 80. Next time there was 200. Next time, like, 2,000. And it just kept growing over, like I said, 17 years. And so it was always getting better. And even when we're just like, God, do we quit? We're just like, dude, nobody has an apartment. We're all just living in a van or on a friend's couch when we come home. Nobody has any money. But we were just still, and a lot of times it sucked too. It wasn't even fun. Like, if you don't have money and you don't have a house and you're having a good time, totally doesn't matter. If all of that and you're not having a good time and not, like, then you're just like, gotta think about that. But it just always felt like we were just right about there. And it was just felt like a shame to give up. And I was just like, I just got to try this trail. I got to try this road until, and we hit just so many, like, tight little fucking alleyways that we had to, like, suck in and, like, work our way through. We just never hit a wall. Like, or if we did, we'd just fucking kick it down, I guess. And, but yeah, we're just both, me and John particularly, are just crazy stubborn. And we're just like, nah, man, I'm going to do this. I mean, I'm going to play fucking music with these guys until I die. And so as long as people are still coming to watch us play music with these guys until I die, I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, I feel like that says a lot. Do you know who Tom Segura is, the comedian?
Yeah.
Yeah, he on this interview once, actually, I think it might have been a show that he did. But anyways, the takeaway of what he was saying was that, very much like all other performers and artists, he was struggling with it. And then one day he just kind of came to the conclusion that he wanted it to happen, but he didn't care how. So he kind of let it go with how that was going to happen. But as long as he was doing something and, like you were saying, progressing upwards, it was fine. And then it happened, right? And I find a parallel in your story, his story, and other people's stories too, that there is this moment. You seem to have had it from the very beginning, but there does seem to be this moment where people decide, fuck it, it's going to happen the way it's going to happen, and I'm just going to trust that I'm doing the right thing. Do you feel like that's the mentality that helps artists kind of break through to their audience?
Totally. It's just like, you just got to be real and do whatever you're going to do. And like, dude, you'll find it, I think. And dude, if you just got something to say, fucking say it, do it. And if you're believable, I mean, you got to be good. You got to have something good to say. You got to have something that people want to hear. Because it depends. There's a lot of people I know that are just like, dude, how do you do it? Like, you know, what do you got to do to make it? I'm like, yeah, there's totally things that I wish I knew in the past, but I'm just like, but honestly, I'm like, you got to be good. You got to say something that other people want to hear. And like, you got to be really talented and have somebody else write something that people want to hear. And there's like a million different ways, but I'm like, you got to put out something that sounds good that people want to listen to. And so even if you are super stubborn, you got to have some talent or be with some talent or something like that. Like, you got to be real and you got to be at least decent, like have a good story, because otherwise just nobody's going to really care, I guess. Yeah. To be successful. But success can mean a lot of different things, man. Yeah, it is subjective. And I definitely don't think it's about money. I just think that you got to do what you think is right in every situation. And I've been trying to, over the pandemic, I've been trying to like just chop things down into fractions in every single moment and just try to do the right thing at every second. Just like, there's so many times like I walk by and there's like a piece of trash on the street. I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking pick up that piece of trash. Or I'm just going to try to I just think of everything like a crossroads. I'm just like, all right, which way do I fucking turn? And I'm just trying to do a bunch of little rights can maybe make a difference. And so, yeah, I just try to do that with every conversation, with everything. And, you know, and I fuck up plenty. Totally.
We all do.
Yeah. But I'm just feeling like that's human, man. Right and wrongs, whatever. Truth these days, like who fucking knows what's real and what's not, man? I don't know. It's just like you gotta trust your gut. And guts, I mean,
for all you know, I could have a filter on my face. I could not be me. I could be somebody else. Yeah. You cannot be you. I don't know.
Yeah. I could be lying. None of this could be true. I could change my story the next day. It's like, and it doesn't matter. It's like, that's what's like, people take, especially now with all the fake news, all the media, everybody like going all crazy and like, oh, did you hear what they did? Stuff like that. Like, facts are meaning less and less to me now. And I'm more interested in fiction, because at least in fiction, when they're just like, everything in the story is made up, I can still pull out my, like, the morals and the gist of the story. And I'm like, and in that, there is real truth.
Yeah.
And I've been really liking that lately. If I read an autobiography or some shit, I'm like, nobody sees themselves the way other people see them. Nobody has that thing. And even if you try as hard as you can to tell a story, even people's memories are fucked up. You're not even remembering the thing. You're just remembering the last time you recalled that thing. The last time you recalled that recall. It's like, shit is fucking ridiculous now. And even photos and videos with deep fakes and shit, who knows what the future is going to hold. So it's like, inside, man, don't look to external gratification, external truth. Try to find it in there and project that out onto the world, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just fucking went on a rant there.
You got to write a book, man.
I could never do that. It would be the shittiest book, but maybe I'll do it.
I don't know, man. There's some pretty shitty books out there, but what's curious about what you're saying is I do feel, and being here in LA, it's a huge ass fucking bubble because there's so many different kinds of people. But I do find that in this pandemic, and metropolises like this city has really forcefully made people think about what they believe in, whether it's fake news or whatnot. And what I find curious about what you're saying is I see it all the time now with the people that I'm talking with, is there is this interest in just picking at things that help themselves and just holding to that, because paying too much attention to everything else is just so draining.
Yep.
And I'm wondering, do you feel like that is exactly where we're headed now in terms of just musicians in general? Like rather than just believing in what's given to us in front of us, you feel like the healthier thing to do is just like, you know what, let me grab this is for me, and I'm gonna ignore everything else. Is that the best thing we can do?
Yeah, or maybe not ignore, like still see it, but just like don't take it so personally, or face values and grains of salt. It's just there's like, man, the fucking acorns or the oak trees in the acorn, like anything that is happening, like everything's in you, and like trust in yourself. Like anything that you hear and represent, like it's already in you, man. The everything there. It's like we can't write. We're musicians, and we try to come up with different ways to say the same things and stuff. And that's what's fun about it. It's all been said in different ways. It's like there's only 12 notes. Everything out there is all out there in the ether. It's like
true.
There's only 12 notes, like that the world has agreed on. And that's what I love about music, is that it is common ground with all these differences and all these opposing opinions. I love the fact that, a Republican uncle and a Democrat uncle can be arguing over a holiday table, and a Beatles song comes on. They both start nodding their heads. It's like, all right, there we go. Find common ground. And then where do we split off? And let's talk about that intersection. And sometimes it's just right. Sometimes you get to a point where somebody you're just like, all right, I just don't agree with you. And we just aren't going to see the same way. But look at all this shit that we do agree on. Like, what is important? Water. What is important? Like, oxygen. And like we're just like, all right, cool, we agree there. Let's go back and let's protect those things. That's why we've got a foundation, and our band just has always been into and lately very much so elevating Indigenous voices. And we're just kind of going back to like the connect with the land you're on, read about the original stewards of this place, and like we just look for so many external things, and I did too, but like I realize now, like the place I grew up was so special, and the place that I'm at is so special. It's like, look right around you, and LA is fucking amazing. Like that shit's a real city. Like, yeah, you've got so many different cultures in there, and it's like, it's fucking rad, dude. LA, yeah. I didn't like LA for a long time because I didn't see it for what it was. I was looking at, the Sunset Strip and, Hollywood and all that shit. And then it's like,
all the wrong places.
And then I find all these pockets, and I'm just like, oh, dude, there's so much realness here. And there's a lot of fucking fake shit. There's a lot of frosting on that town, but there's a shit ton of cake in there. And, and it's beautiful. You can just see so many different things and taste the world right there. And I really like it. I'm finding things very interesting lately.
Yeah, as you should be, because I think the more time we spend thinking about ourselves and the environment that we're in, the more fascinating it becomes. And I appreciate you saying that, Zach, because I do find that the whole frosting of a city like LA, and LA isn't alone in this. There's plenty of cities like this too, where you see on TV, and then you try and experience that, and it isn't what it's about. Then you find you look under the hood, and there's all this beauty behind it. And I'm glad that you appreciate that.
And I've been in like opposite, like even in real time, like especially in like the music business and stuff. Like I go to parties, and it's just fucking networking, and it's like, I start up a conversation, and if I can't help them or they can't help me, within 5 seconds, we're not talking anymore. It's like, cool. I'm like, that fucking sucks. Because some of the most interesting people I've met, I have absolutely no business talking to. And that's what I really like. It's just like finding somebody that you just like, and it doesn't have anything to do with your trajectory in life or anything like that. It's just like, hey, there's this, there's a cook at this taco shop that just is fucking fascinating, and like, oh, his son does this, and his mom has this story, and you're just like, man, I just fucking like that person. And there's no reason, there's no ulterior motives except maybe to get good tacos. There's always some kind of motive, I guess. But like, I really like just the no pressure. There's a lot of people that I hang out with and I truly do like, but I'm also like, oh, it's sort of a work thing, or that's how we became friends. I really just want to like shed everything, to shave my head of all the fucking shit that we do, and just like, who do I like? What do I actually like? And what do I do for other people? I do a lot of shit just for others, like some of the shit I wear or something like that. I'm just like, oh, that's to go out and be seen in something. I'm like, what do I actually want to say? If I want to make a t-shirt, what do I say on it? And so it's kind of fun, since we have a foundation in the band. We just get to make t-shirts and say what we want on them. And I'm like, dude, but anybody can do that. Anyone can do that. And it's fun.
It is fun. And I do find that I think we're all in that same boat lately. I do feel like, for me, for example, I was just on that boat that you were talking about, where I indirectly and also directly sort of shed a lot of acquaintances. And not in the sense of like, fuck you. It's more so like I began to understand what our relationship was.
Yeah.
And I began to understand who I wanted in my corner, and that it's okay that if it's a small corner, I generally like these people just for who they are, and I don't need to spend time elsewhere. I do think that's very important, especially as an artist. There's so much fluff in the music scene, and getting to that point where you're at, where you can finally see what you want to say, who you want to be with, what you want to be. I feel like I'm singing a Biggie song.
Totally, yeah.
It's exactly the healthiest place to be in my opinion.
Yeah. And you don't have to burn bridges. It's just like, and I love some of my favorite people in the world, and some of people I consider my closest friends. Like, we hardly talk. I see them like once or twice a year, but we don't have to like, oh, what are the kids up to? Oh, how's work? We just start like, I'm like, man, what are you working on? It's like, oh man, I've been like, really have been like really interested in this weird thing, or I've been reading this book and it made me think this. I'm just like, all right, we just skip all that other shit. And of course I want to know how the kids are and stuff like that and how work is, but I'm like, just get real. And I'm like, and we don't need to talk every day to do that. And I'll consider them my best friends. In fact, my very best friends that aren't in the band, like I hardly talk to, but I just like, once I do, even if it's been a year, I'm like, oh, we're just right back to where we were the last time. And I'm like, I love that. That's great. I love acquaintances. I've got a shit ton of them.
They're fun. You just
Acquaintances
get to talk.
are the best. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. Well, one of the cool things that I love about what you're doing specifically, that there's so much I want to continue asking you about, but there's like...
I'll stop ranting. That's all. I'll just get to questions.
No. I love the rants, because this is what it's all about. This is what conversations are for. We were talking, this is how we learn how to be better, is just by having conversations. And one of the cool things about like the foundation that you have, which is where you may want to give me more details on what you do, but like I do know that you have this foundation, and then you also dabble in so many other different things that in a way sort of intersect. It's all about giving freedom to certain group of people. I find that tends to be the theme of where you are. And so one of the things that I'm very interested in, that it's kind of how we got this conversation started, was how you are involved in crypto all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And that is one thing I wanted to pick your brain on for a little bit, because I feel like that's the topic a lot of people probably want to ask you about. And it is a hot one, and I know a lot of people know about it, but not many people have taken, at least in the music scene, not many people have taken action on it, which you have. And I love that. Tell me about how that happened.
We have been all about the whole thing with our band and the foundation, and growing up in Alaska has always been community. And we've been trying, because we're tight with our fans. We talk to them a lot. We've been looking for a way to do some kind of fan club or something like that, but to get make a deeper connection, I guess, and just build a community with some of our hardcore fans. And we thought about the crypto thing, and what I like about it, I was skeptical at first, as a lot of people are. But once again, with those systems, I was like, why is it like this? I started getting, when we were coming up with this idea, I'm like, man, I don't know a lot about crypto. I don't want to do interviews. I just don't know. And I thought about it, I'm like, I have no fucking idea how regular currency works. I'm like, wait, so we just all agreed on one random metal in the ground, rare metal, and then made paper to base credits on that. And I'm like, and it doesn't even fucking that shit doesn't even matter anymore. And I'm just like, what the fuck? And I started thinking about that. I'm like, oh, I don't know anything about that. Anyway, this sounds like way more fun. It sounds like baseball cards or Pokemon. It's like, would I rather pay for something with, you know, just money, or like a fucking baseball card or a Pokemon card or something. Like you get these, you collect random things and you're like, ooh, some of them will, you know, go up in value. Some of them won't. Some of it you can't control, like the stock market and stuff. And I'm like, crypto, I'm like, you can. If like it's a investing, it's us investing in our fans and our fans investing in us. We're sharing in the risk, we're sharing in the reward. And if band does good, they do good. And I just think it's a cool thing. And we really wanted to do it right. And we wanted to really make sure that didn't look weird. But I just think it's fun and cool and an interesting idea. So we're always just trying shit out. Every time we're putting out an album or something, we're just testing waters. That's all we do.
Yeah.
We're water testers. And so we're trying this. And I really like how it decentralizes currency. It puts power into people's hands, and we get to share something together. And I think that is fucking cool. And yeah, it's just about building a community, micro economies. I think that's just rad. And like putting your money where your mouth is these days is important. And during this pandemic, you know, I've taken a look at where I buy shit, and there's always some necessary evils that you got to do. But I've been focusing a lot more on, I'm like, you know what? If I like what this company is doing, if there's like, all right, I like these two sandwiches. One's further away, but I'm liking all the signs they have in their window, not totally digging this. Who do people like? Who do those people send their money to? Where, like, what political platforms are backing it? I started doing a little research. And I'm just like, fuck, and I'm thinking more about it. And like, sadly, a lot of the things that we agree on will be money, and that money is power. And like, that's something that we can take back, or something that we can use. At the beginning of the pandemic, everybody just stopped driving. Everybody's like, I was like, oil runs the world. But look what happens when everybody stops using it. Shit tanks, dude. Your money matters. Your thoughts matter. And like where you put it matters. And that was incredible. And I was like, no fucking way, dude. Like the world just did that. We don't need a pandemic to do that. We can just do that shit. Like we can control things. So I'm like, I try to put money into things I believe in and to people I believe in. And I'll drive a little further or something for something that like directly stimulates my community. And so we're just like, but in this day, you know, it's like a commune, but there's like, we can have a million little communes online right now. Like, there's Portugal the Man world. There's fucking Coldplay world. There's like, you know, whatever. It's like, you know, it's fucking Biggie world. And like everybody has that tight knit. It's like, dude, we can have a bunch of different communities. And let's do that. Let's trade with others. It's just interesting and fun. But yeah, it's all about community. It's all about empowering people and doing things together. And I just think it's super interesting. So I'm into it, man. I think it's fun. I haven't bought any other crypto or anything, and just like, but I also don't.
I can walk you through it a little bit if you wanted to.
I would like to know kind of, but I also like some of my friends stuff are all on Robinhood, like in the trading. I'm just like, I've never cared about money. I have had a lot of it, and I have had none of it. And I just like, I don't have an emotional response with it. And but I definitely don't want to I don't want to spend my day trying to make money. That's my thing, is I want to try to just spend my day. Now, there are times, and when I realize what good you can do with money and stuff like that, or what bad, you know, whether I'm, you know, donating a bunch or buying a fucking heap of drugs and just having a good weekend. It depends, you know. I like this house that I'm putting like all of my time and money in for the rest of my life, probably, you know, but it's going to be great. And this is where my dog lives, my gal and her kids. And I got a river out there, and I'm like, I'm going to take care of this piece of land, and I'm going to work with it. And so there are a lot of good things. So yeah, we'll fucking do a sellout thing, but we usually do something pretty good after it. And you know, it's a combo. It's a combo, and it's all about balance. It's like, dude, good and evil, man. There's like, I don't want to be either. I want to be both. And and yeah, I just think this is just really opens up a whole new world on how to do things, how to make things. And it's got to be, back. There's a lot of like weird things about it, but like you can make it, we can make this world, like whatever world we go out into, like we don't have to go into the old world. We don't have to be like, when things go back to normal, we get to make that new normal. Like there is no normal. It's whatever we fucking say it is. So let's go out and like at least make it cool and fun and interesting. And I'm excited about it. It's
damn. Fun. I love that shit, man. I know you have till 3. Would it be possible to go to 3:10?
Oh yeah, I can go a little longer. It's like there's a guy in town. He's our doctor. He's like our band doctor, kind of.
Ooh, nice.
He's rad, and he kind of, I know it sounds like a rock doc that just gets us scripts or something, and he's not that kind. He's trying to make us live longer to make more music, and so
that's the way to be.
Yeah, and it's really handy because a lot of times when you travel around, and he just loves our band. He doesn't charge anything for it. We just but I entertain him, and him and whoever he wants can I'm like, yeah, you gotta whatever you want to with us and come. And he's a sweet dude. Yeah, it's nice because a lot of times when we're just traveling day to day, like if somebody gets sick or even has a cold or something, it's like we oftentimes can't even get, it's so hard to how many dentist appointments we have to cancel, how many doctor's appointments we can't do because all the work in a different city every day. We're like, oh, do you have any availability? It's like, no, not till 4 days from now. It's like, cool, I'll be 1,000 miles away. And having a guy that we can text and just be like, hey man, what can I do about this problem? And have him answer is really nice. So, and he'll probably call me first. And so I can just go to whenever,
Cool. Good. I appreciate it. I respect people's time. So you let me know. I don't want to be disrespectful when it comes to that, but I do appreciate your flexibility. One thing I find, which by the way, smart on you for having a doctor friend. I feel like that's the one friend. If all of us can make one friend in our lifetime, befriend a doctor. Yeah. Seriously, it helps quite a bit. Yeah. But I'm wondering, when it comes to PTM Coin, that's the name of your coin. What's fascinating about crypto, which you absolutely nailed it, it's the whole concept of decentralized finance, right? And financing is a fucking complex thing. If any of you guys out there are interested in learning about finance, research how the banking system works, because then that'll flip your head upside down when you understand how the whole credit system works, how all the money that's in circulation doesn't exist. Yeah. It's fucking insane. But the point being is crypto, the beauty of it all, without getting too detailed on the technology, it does free us from that middleman, so to speak. And there's a lot of hate, a lot of love for it. What I'm wondering about is for PTM Coin, I think you guys are with Rally, if I'm not mistaken.
We're with Rally,
right?
Yeah.
I know that there's other creators on that platform with their own specific coins. Do you guys interchange with each other, or is your own little ecosystem just for, Portugal the Man fans and they can only use a coin with you? If that makes sense. For
now, however, that's one of the things I really liked about that too, is it's just like trading with, different nations or something like that. It's like, we're kind of taking it back to old school using the fucking future, man. And we will absolutely. And to be honest, I think through Rally, I don't actually know if that does work or if there's cryptocurrency exchanges yet, but we will doing collaborations or just people we like. It's obviously if you have PTM Coin and to be in our fan club and to be a coin holder, you get a bunch of things, access to a bunch of exclusive things, and you don't have to trade your coin. You have to pay. It's just holding it will grant you access. And then we'll have limited merch drops or something and give the coin access people, first dibs. Or if you use coin, it's cheaper than using dollars. But what if, some other artist that creates their own that we just respect, just be you're oh, if you use that coin, you get this discount. And if they use the coin on that, you get that. And it's just you can make a whole nother network. And that's where I hope that we go with it. I don't actually know because I'm not the smart guy driving this. We've got it's the Rally guys that are more smart. Clearly, I'm just a dipshit, but I'm into. But
you're trying the idea, though. You're trying the idea. That's the important part.
Exactly.
You dove in,
and I really like the whole collaboration aspect of it. And who knows? Things will get together, and then I don't know. It's like, is yeah, it's just, again, just different economies and micro economies, like maybe getting a little more macro. And then, yeah, there can just be kind of, just crypto gangs, and like everybody's like in cahoots with one another. And it's like, it's fucking rad, dude. I think
It's
that's
also like a
cool.
little secret club. Like if you go to a show and like, hey, I have the coin, you have the coin. That's kind of cool. It's like we're on the
Totally.
same team. And it is kind of nice to have that little community of people that not only support you but that are on board with that
Yeah,
little market.
absolutely.
I'm wondering how has the response been for some of your fans and people in your
It's
community?
been rad. Like a lot of people, like there's, we've gotten some skeptics, which I'm like, by all means, question everything,
Mm-hmm.
especially anything that I say. But I think it's been really cool. It's doing really well, which is rad. I don't know, like went up in value, and I'm like, I don't really know how. It's not like we've technically done much, but like people are like using it and are into it, and a lot of people are interested in it. And I'm still learning about everything about crypto and NFTs and all that stuff, and I just find it fascinating. I just think
Mm-hmm.
it's super cool, and it is like just a way that we are moving into kind of a different plane of existence
Yeah.
on through technology and stuff. And I have good thoughts and bad thoughts about it, but I'm like, that's, don't forget about the place you are, don't forget about your feet on the earth, but like, fuck around in the cloud, and like let's get weird up there. And I just find it very interesting. But yeah, we've gotten great responses from it. And we just, yeah, we have a nasty habit of like jumping on a train right when it's like kind of the first car.
Mm.
And we're just like, because I like that shit. And it's
That's the
not for
best time to
being,
jump onto a train, though. Honestly, like if you have that
yeah,
habit of doing that, that's the right place to be in, though, in my opinion.
totally. Yeah. And it's not really because of like making money or anything. It's just like, I like being early.
Yeah.
I like finding, I'm interested. Maybe it's a fucking a smug little thing where I'm just like, oh, I heard about that band first. So like I'm interested in all of it. I like hearing about it last. I just like, I'm I yeah, there's a ton of bands that I like didn't get. And I think that like that I didn't get till now, and I'm just getting in. I've got this whole catalog torn. I'm like, I don't mind being late either, but if I've got a few people I trust, and if somebody's like, hey man, you should look into this, I've got a few people that I trust. I'm just like, okay, I will look into that.
And you did. And
I did.
smart man. Do you think this is here to stay then? I mean, I know that you said you're probably
Yeah.
still skeptical, but you think this is for sure like the future.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I think it's very, very cool, and I think it's empowering. And so when I say I'm skeptical, I'm just like, sometimes it depends on my day. Sometimes I have faith in humanity, sometimes I don't. But I
Don't
think
we
this is
all?
cool
Don't
as
we all,
shit.
man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think this is cool as shit. And I think, kinks will get worked out. And I think this could be really, really cool. And yeah, like I said, it's about, for us specifically, it's about currency. And I don't want to bash some other artists that have done it poorly or wrong or stuff, but it's like, I'm like, yeah, there's some people that like, there's some shit that just hasn't been done right or been a money grab. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
fuck that. I'm like, because one of the whole reasons we did this is like, we don't want to take advantage of our fans. I remember this one thing. There was this kid, we used to put out all these like limited editions, and we still do to some extent, but like we put out the same record, but just on 5 different colors of vinyl. And this kid who did not make a lot of money, like bought all 5 just to collect them. I'm like, dude, there's like not even any extra tracks or any like, it's just a different color of vinyl. And we stopped. After that, it was like, let's just go to black or do one thing. It's like, I feel bad. And even though that kid gets obviously a joy out of like collecting that, I'm like, I felt like we were taking advantage of him. Like, and
Mm.
now I'm like, I want to send that kid shit for free. So I'm like, I want to do things together, and I don't want to take advantage. I love our fans. I don't want to take them for granted. I don't want to take advantage of them. And so when I see things like that, it's like, yeah, if I sell a bass, like I don't want some kid to buy it for fucking $5,000 if it's only worth 2. I'm like, no, this is what it's worth. And you can have it for this. It's like, I don't want to take advantage of that.
Mm.
And so, yeah, this is like kind of putting the power back in their hands. If we do stuff like that, people have a choice. It's just investing in some shit that you believe in. And for some reason, some people believe in us. And I appreciate that. So we'll give them some perks.
Honestly, I think it's because you just go with the flow. Like, honestly, I am so happy that we got a chance to pick at your brain about this, because I do feel like it is a game-changing thing. How it's going to change the game is, I mean, we're in it. We're kind of in the history of it. Yeah, we don't even fucking know. But I'm glad that you are very much someone who pushes for this fairness. That's basically what I've gathered from you. You love making good art, and you like giving opportunity to people outside of your circle too. Like the fact that you're involved in so many things. And actually, before I forget, I do want to talk about your foundation just for a minute, because I know that it does a lot of important stuff. You work with indigenous people. That is amazing. That is important, especially for this nation where indigenous culture is amazing. It's tied into everything, but we don't do enough about it. So talk to me a little bit about how that came to be and what kind of works that you guys are involved in.
Yes, we have the PTM Foundation, and we elevate indigenous voices, and we just respect the original stewards of the land. Growing up in Alaska, there's a very close connection with Native Alaskan culture. And so like we saw the people, and we knew the beauty of the history and the traditions. And we also saw a lot of the hardships and the shit that they face, and the story of colonization and all this stuff. So we had a very unique and close perspective to it. And then we started traveling. We went all over the world, and we noticed, and we knew, it's indigenous people everywhere. Like, we didn't see the people. We'd see the names of rivers, the names of towns, and we just did not see the people being represented. And we were like looking and digging in. And finally, we just started doing something about it. And through a bunch of, keeping it short, we just finally started creating a network, which was pretty difficult, about just basically every show that we play, we do a land acknowledgement where we connect with the original tribe of that area, wherever we're playing on, or that have been displaced there. And we invite them on stage, and we just pass the mic. And I tell a quick story about why we do this. And then it's a shared learning experience for us and the crowd to like learn about the place that we're at. Yeah. And it's really cool. We've met some amazing people, and that's like totally the first step. And I'm loving seeing, like, it's a thing. Like, people are doing it. We're working with the city of Portland about making official acknowledgement for Portland.
That's cool.
We've like, so many places have like taken it in, and it's really, really awesome. It's only the first step. Like I said, acknowledgement is only the first step in a long list of problems. But we just represent, we help with issues. And we don't always want to do that too, because one thing that I want people to know is like the good and evil thing. Like, I'm both. We're not like do-gooders all the time. And like, we don't always want to share the problems, or it's not a charity, it's a partnership. And we get so much out of this work too. And that's what we've been doing through the pandemic, is like, that's, since we're not touring or playing a ton of music, that's what we work on every day. And it's difficult because originally the idea was just play shows, donate a certain amount of money to these organizations, pretty simple. And then we started the foundation, and we're not playing shows, so we didn't make any money. So we've had to think outside the box, but we've done really well. I'm very proud of everybody in our organization that has been working hard, and we got a kick-ass team of advisors and a really good board director that, like, we wanted to do a lot of stuff, but we're disorganized, like shitty artists. And so we were saying yes to everything. We didn't have enough of us or enough people. And we got a team now where we can do good without physically being there and like handing this over, doing this thing, or playing the show. We can help people write grants. We can find funding from other places. Like, we're really creating a good network of just organizations.
That is beautiful, man. I love how your brain works, Zach, because I think you're like, in my opinion, I hope this comes off as a compliment, but you're kind of like a reverse Elon Musk, in my opinion. You do a lot, but whereas he is very calculated, you're kind of like the reverse, where you're like, you know what? I'm going to try 10 things. And it's beautiful. And I think that what you're saying definitely rings true. You know, it's acknowledgement and understanding that we can do stuff. And I definitely am a big proponent of everyone doing whatever they can. But you found yourself in a position where you could do something, and so you did. Many people don't. Many people just move on. And maybe it's not meant for everybody, but I do appreciate that you are very outspoken. You love helping people. You are all about, you know, music, activism, the freedom of it all, and it shows with your life. It shows with your personality. I mean, you seem like a very happy dude. Like, I would love to buy you a beer. Like, that's the kind of person that you seem to be.
I love to drink a beer.
Oh, there you go. You see, and I love that about you, man. And I do want to say that I'm grateful that I got a chance to talk to you, but also to share your story a little bit, share where your brain is going, because I do feel like the way you approach music, we need more of that. You know, we need more of just going for it, trying to do our best, and trying to give back when the time is right. You know, and that's what you're doing. And I love that. That's what you're all about, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I appreciate it. Let's hang out sometimes when things get back to whatever normal we create.
When you're in LA or when I'm in Portland, I'm gonna treat you to that beer. I promise you. I know you have a doctor's appointment to get to, so I'm wondering if you can just kind of let me know a little bit about, other than the foundation that you have and some of the coin that we talked about, when it comes to music. I know a lot of your fans are probably anxious to find out what you've been working on. Is there anything in the horizon, anything new at all? Give me a rundown. What do you got going on?
Dude, we got a lot of songs. We've been working on an album for like a couple years now, and honestly, it's just this kind of hit us with, you know, they gave us too much time because we didn't really want to put out something now, and like we don't know how to work it. We also don't know what to say. We always change. Like the last 2 weeks, we rewrite all the lyrics just to make it for like a snapshot of now. But the world's just moving so fast. Like every 2 weeks, like, all right, we got murder hornets. What the fuck? Now we got a pandemic. Now we got nationwide protests. Now psycho political things are going on. And I'm just like, what do we write about? Because by the time we write it and press the vinyl, I'm like, the world's going to be fucking different. So we're just rewriting a bunch of versions of a bunch of songs, but it's getting close. And things are starting to, like, vaccines are pumping. We're working on that herd immunity. Maybe we can see some shows pretty soon. We're like talking about some shit. We're dusting off the cobwebs. We're sharpening up the claws, and we'll have some shit coming.
I love it.
Till then, I'll be fishing.
Oh, I love that, man. You got to teach me how to fish. I haven't fished since I was a kid.
Oh,
I'm a country cross country runner. That's my outdoor stuff.
Oh, damn, that's cool.
Yeah,
I don't have the knees for that anymore, but I always thought that looked really nice.
Dude, I'm preparing for that. Someday, I told myself when I can't run anymore, I'll just start swimming. But I know it's coming. It usually comes for most runners. But I know you mentioned that you're kind of waiting for until things start rolling. But do you have any like shows in late 2021? I know some people are planning that.
We're getting on it. We're like, we had some stuff that we had booked before COVID, and so we are just we've said okay to some things, and we're just kind of waiting to announce. But like, we don't want to put anybody at risk. Like we don't want to be too early on this one. We don't want to be too late either. So as soon as things start happening and it is safe to do so, and we won't endanger anybody's lives, fuck yeah, we'll be out there.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. Zach, I appreciate your time. You're an awesome musician, awesome human being. I cannot wait to see and hear the new music you guys had coming out, and all the works that you're working on. It's crazy how you can get so much done and still have time to fish. It's awesome.
Well, this year it's been a little easier.
That's true. And that is true.
I get it.
That is true. Well, thanks a lot, Zach, for your time. I would wish you luck, but you don't fucking need it. You make your own luck. I love that.
I always need it. That's all I've got, man.
I love that.